everybody. First, I want to start by thanking the people who are now part of this class and decided to join us today. So thank you. Everybody might wonder why I'm dressed up this morning. I'm sorry? You guessed it, we're playing American Salute this morning. So get that up, everybody. I want to make sure, first of all, everybody has a heart. If I get the thumbs up, we can go ahead. Okay. So let me ask you a show of hands. How many people have actually played this game before? Okay, good. Probably military band, right? Okay, yeah. It's a very classic piece for military bands. It was actually written by Morton Gould. Morton Gould was actually one of the most prolific American composers out there. He was actually born in New York City in 1913. Actually went to college at the age of 15 and actually had his own radio show at the age of 21. With that radio show, he actually got to premiere all of his work, so he got well known at a very young age. He was a contemporary of people like Gershwin, for example. He was different because, in the sense that he actually took those American folk songs and actually turned those and used traditional forms where other people did not. There's an interesting story about the writing of this piece, and this will be good for all you procrastinators out there. He actually had to create a government program one day for his show in 1942. He didn't have a piece for it. So after dinner at 6 p.m., he began writing American Salute. He and his copyist finished it at 3 a.m. Sounds familiar with some term papers, right? He had it on the stand at 9 o'clock, and they actually premiered this and broadcast it that night. It is considered to be a minor classic. Does anybody know what the song is based off of? What's the name of the song that was based off of? Johnny Comes Marching Home. Good. Anybody know what war that came from? I thought it was World War I, II until I researched it. It was actually the Civil War. And the person who actually is credited with writing it the first time was a guy by the name of Patrick Sarsfield Gilmore. He was actually a contemporary. He was actually a bandmaster who was a competitor and a contemporary of John Philip Sousa at the time. He actually wrote this in occupied New Orleans in 1863. However, the real song actually came from Irish tradition. There are actually several different versions of this. I'm going to read to you, before we start, I'm going to read to you the actual lyrics. When Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah. We'll give him a hearty welcome then, hurrah, hurrah. The men will cheer and the boys will shout. The ladies, they will all turn out and we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. Now, most of you growing up in the 90s and early 2000s probably heard a children's version of this called The Ants Go Marching One by One. That was actually based off of this. So, take a look at the beginning. This is probably ta 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 ta. We're going to sizzle that. Everybody's going to sizzle that. Because at some point or another, you actually have it. Okay? Start. 1, 2, ready. When we're doing this, we want to actually make sure we're bouncing. Okay, good. The idea of this is when we're doing this, this is going to become the backdrop from da 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 da. On a neutral syllable, I want everybody to sing the actual melody. Everybody knows the melody, right? Probably sang it at one point or another. Let's sing the melody again. Da 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 da. Because at the very beginning of this, 3 sections at least have this before we go into the first variation. Let's sing. 1, 2, ready, play. Okay, not bad at all. Let's lean into a little dee da dee da 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 dee da 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 dee da dee da da. Okay? Let's try it one more time. Leaning into that. One. Ready, everybody? 1, 2, ready. Okay, good, good. By the way, I did mention something about variation. This is actually what is known as a theme and variation. So there's a theme and then there's going to be variations. We're going to play through it once, and when we're done, we're going to find out what those themes are. Okay? We're ready? In which tempo do you learn? One. to sign this there? Okay. Let's take it at the very beginning. Remember the great da 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 da. Start at the very beginning. Especially for with the English horn parts. Let's take that at second one past the beginning. Ready?
We're at 15.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Karen. So How did you get where you wanted to get?
Not really, but I also planned more than that in 15 minutes, just to make sure. Sure. What happened at the very beginning is that I was mistaken by part. I said, hey, everybody play the keys. That would have taken a lot of, that would have saved a lot of time.
Sure. I think too, I like the explanation. I think we all have a better understanding of this piece because of what you said.
Yeah.
It was 6 minutes into your lesson before we played the note.
Okay.
And then by the time you played the piece, before you even went back, it was almost 11 minutes into your lesson.
Okay.
So I think this is good for all of us to recognize. I mean, it's not, if you had an hour, that's appropriate. If you have 15 minutes, that might be too much explanation.
Okay.
You may need to pare that down.
Okay.
But I think we started to actually rehearse and talk about musical ideas and referring to things before they even heard the piece. And if they had not played the piece, assuming that they know the tune may be a reach.
Okay.
And maybe they have, but one way to be sure they have is let them experience it.
Yeah.
I just think that, this is my bias, but I think we need to listen to music sooner.
Okay.
And even before we even talk about music, why not let them have the opportunity to sight read it?
Okay.
You know, what is their educational value in just letting them read it cold? And then, okay, now we've experienced a little bit, now let's talk about what has happened and where does this come from? Because a lot of things you spoke about, they might already know at
Okay.
this point, and they may be able to better answer these questions. I mean, it's a good piece, and I mean, I love bow tie, I think it's great, and I think, oh no, seriously, I mean, this is important because this is, I mean, actually, Dr. Newpoint conducted this piece last week with the Army Band at Friendship High School. I mean, this is a piece that is done often, especially in military bands, but also, I mean, not just there, I mean, it's still community work. So I think drawing them to the patriotism that goes with the piece is also important. All the information is good. I mean, your paper's good. All that's good. We just need to get to the teaching part of the music sooner. That's my suggestion to you. So when you're conducting, there were a few times where you went into a larger unit.
Okay.
Just remember that if you do that, if you sit on the ictus and then move, it becomes very challenging for them because then they're having to determine, okay, what does he want here? And in that case, I mean, it's almost better to not do that at all and maybe just encourage the line and not do those deep dive because once you do, you start to grab onto the line and then it kind of puts the reins on. Now, there was a time at the beginning where you started them and then you said, let's go much faster. And then you went back and rehearsed it. Well, how fast do you think you should go? Okay, and that's based on what? What is
Listening to it. Listen to
What
it.
is the tempo marking?
140.
So how fast is 140? That's fast as 140.
Okay.
So I think you might want to check that because the tempo, and sometimes the adrenaline gets in our head a little bit, but 12/8 it doesn't work a whole lot faster than that. And with these rhythms like this, now you can do that faster, but you risk things not quite 12, especially when you're reading for the
It's
first.
sounding frantic.
Oh, it's very frantic, and it doesn't have. I mean, it's a triple meter,
Yeah.
and so it's not supposed to be. It's a different feel. So I think where the piece settled was a little more appropriate.
Okay.
Where you were trying to push it, I think you just want to. And it's okay to have a metronome to check yourself in rehearsal.
Okay.
To check yourself. Now, if you turn it on for the whole band to play with, that's a different story. But to make sure that you're okay, that's okay to do in rehearsal. The other thing too, some of you may notice that for time management, and I have to do this for myself, I have a giant clock that I bring to every rehearsal, and it sits right here. If I don't have that clock, I could spend 2 hours on a piece. I mean, I do that because I know myself. I mean, we have to know ourselves too. That has to be part of our plan, so that you know how much time you're going to spend talking. And if you gauge it that way, and you have something to hold you accountable, then you have to do that, and it's good with practice.
Okay.
All right, sir. Hey, nice job.